I'm going to switch gears here just a little bit, and I've read some of the writings you've done, on your Facebook page, and you mentioned, you talk about zapping and cloaking and mind talk and orbs, and I understand what most of those things are, but I've never heard of zapping. Can you explain that to me?
Well, sure. Let me start off once again with, for the first 10 years, I was a diehard Bigfoot researcher. So when the crazy kooks out there were talking about things like zapping, MindSpeak, cloaking, and orbs, I was vicious. I went after them. I would slice them and dice them on the internet and tell them to go away because they were ruining the credibility of us serious Bigfoot researchers, and I showed no mercy until I experienced those things myself. Then all of a sudden, I had to eat crow, and I had a whole lot of apologies to make to the people that I was not very kind to. Regarding zapping and what is zapping, my experience, and I've only had it happen 3 times, keeping in mind I've been out there for almost 14 years, several times a month, so it's, statistically with as many times as I've been out there, 3 times isn't very much.
Sure.
But nevertheless, it's been 3 times, and all 3 times I would equate it to going into surgery. They put the mask over your nose and mouth. They tell you to start, breathing and counting backwards from 10, and usually by the time you hit 5, you're out.
Right.
Well, zapping, you get dropped down to about a 7. You're not out. You're not wide awake. You're conscious, but your body's immobilized. And the zapping on all 3 occasions were kind of a lead-in to a MindSpeak experience.
Okay, can you share that? What happened? I mean, what was the communication like, I guess?
Well, the first time was back in May of 2012, and my son and I were up there at SOA, and we were in the tent, and around 2 in the morning, I heard some, heavy-footed bipedal steps coming to the backside of the tent.
Okay.
And then I felt myself, being zapped. I was wide awake, and my heart was pounding because, here come these steps. But all of a sudden, I'm feeling zapped like I'm being dropped down to a 7. And then the next thing I know, my memories are being gone through from early childhood forward. Well, kind of like a fast-forward movie screen.
Sure.
And in my mind, I'm fighting for about 10, 15 minutes to stop it, to disconnect. And I eventually managed to stop it. And although I stopped it, we were still connected. And in my mind, I'm going, this isn't fair, this isn't right. And then I hear this voice, what isn't fair? I said, you get to know everything about me, but I don't get to know anything about you. If you want to go through my memories, then I need to be able to ask you some questions. And then the immediate response was, I have to talk with the elders first.
Wow.
And I said, okay. So he disconnected. I shot back up to a 10, and I heard the adolescent male walk away. Well, needless to say, I laid there in my tent, wide awake, for 2 hours, until I heard 2 sets of bipedal steps coming back to camp. And I started getting zapped again. This would be my second time being zapped. And I dropped back down to a 7. And then, in my mind, I hear the adult male go, my son says that you have some questions that you would like to ask. I said, yes. He said, what are they? I said, why is he reading through my memories? And his response was, that's our way of knowing what's going on with the human race. That made sense to me because they don't have CNN News.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
And then he goes, do you have any other questions? And I said, yes. Who are you? His immediate response, nonchalant, matter of fact, was, we are descendants of Cain, and we are our brother's keeper. We're guardians of the forest, and we protect all who dwell within. Do you have any other questions? No.
Right. Yeah.
That's good enough for me.
Sure.
That's blowing my mind. May my son continue to read through your memories. Yes. Thank you. So then I feel his son connect, and he starts going through the rest of my memories, and that lasts for about another 45 minutes as he fast forwards through everything. And then when he's done, he said, thank you, and I said, you're welcome, and he disconnected and he walked away, and I laid there going, what the heck just happened here?
Sure.
Did I just make all this up? Was I dreaming? I don't think I was. I'm pretty sure I was awake. This is crazy. And then I go, oh, my son, he's sleeping next to me. I need to check on my son. So I rolled over to look at him, and he lifted his head up off his pillow. He looked at me, and he said, they spoke with me too, Daddy.
Wow.
And then he laid his head back down and went to sleep. And I was like, crap, this really did happen.
Sure. And I have to ask this question, and I want you to know I don't mean any disrespect by it, but it's going to be what everybody's going to ask. I assume there was no drugs or alcohol involved or anything like that going on at the time?
I don't use drugs. I use prescribed drugs, but I wasn't on any prescribed drugs. I've never used any illicit drugs. I grew up with a father who was an Oregon State Trooper, and he gave me a nice little talk when I was 13 years old. When he came home from work, he walked up to me, sat down next to me on the couch in the living room, dressed in his Oregon State Trooper uniform, still had his dark glasses on, pretty intimidating, looked at me and said, Matt, today we're going to have our talk about alcohol and drugs. Okay, Dad.
Good.
If you ever use any alcohol or drugs, I'm going to kill you and throw your rotting corpse in jail. And that pretty much influenced the rest of my life. I don't do drugs, and I never consume alcohol when I'm at base camp for the very reason you just brought up, so no one can accuse me of, oh, you were just under the influence.
Sure.
No, I wasn't.
Good deal. And again, I didn't mean any disrespect by the question. I just know that's what people are going to ask, and
right.
We'd rather nip that in the bud in the beginning than to get a backlash of it later. But
right. Well, I guarantee you my son wasn't doing any drugs or drinking either. And so,
right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and again, you wrote a parenting book, so, giving your son drugs and alcohol would kind of not be a good idea.
Correct. Now, my third time I was zapped happened a year later, and that was on my first solo trip.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the tent all by myself, and again, it took me 13 years to build up enough courage to go out there by myself. I always had to have other people with me because, quite frankly, I was scared to go by myself. And it dawned on me, Matt, give me a break. They're scared of you too. And if they were dangerous, if they wanted you dead, you'd be dead 100 times already because, it's not like the nylon wall of my tent or glass window of my Suburban has protected me. They could come right through the nylon tent wall or the window in the Suburban and kill me if that's what they wanted. So, I realized, okay, they're not going to kill you, and you're fine. Just go out there. So I did my first solo, and I'm laying in the tent, and I hear the bipedal steps come up to the side of the tent. I feel myself getting zapped, drop down to a 7. And so, again, I'm not asleep, but I'm not wide awake, but I'm also immobilized. My dog is inside my sleeping bag digging a hole through the left side of my body because he's freaking over what's going on, but I can't stop him because I'm immobilized. And all of a sudden my memories are being gone through of being in the grocery store earlier that day, buying peanut butter, raspberry jam, bread, and some apples, and then making the sandwiches, putting them out 150 feet away from camp. And then I hear this question, what are your intentions? Well, I'm a little miffed. Give me a break. I've been out here for 7 years doing this. You have to ask me what my intentions are? So he runs me through the memories again, buying the peanut butter, the raspberry jam, the bread, the apples, making the sandwiches, putting the bowls out. And he asked me a second time, what are your intentions? Well, now I'm pissed. doggone it, this is stupid. You don't need to be asking me this. Well, he runs me through my memories a third time. Buying everything at the store, making the sandwiches, putting bowls out. Ask me again, what are your intentions? And I responded in my mind, to earn your trust and friendship. And then I hear, thank you. But I didn't just hear, thank you. I felt every emotion he had behind the expression, thank you.
Sure. It was sincere.
Much like a Vulcan mind meld in Star Trek, where Spock reads the memories but also feels the emotions.
Right.
That I felt that. I felt the emotion behind his expression, thank you. Then he disconnected from me. I shot back up to a 10 and he walked away. And ever since then, this past year, the levels of interaction have shot through the roof exponentially. Even when I bring other people with me to SOA, they're also seeing and experiencing what I'm seeing and experiencing. So this is not just in my head. You go to my SoundCloud, files and listen to that and listen to the witness testimony. You go to the YouTube videos and watch the witness testimony. They're also experiencing that. And it's all because of what I said earlier, trust.
Correct.
To earn your trust and friendship. Once he said he got that from me and said thank you, it's been incredibly different.
Well, it's a unique and very interesting story. I mean, I've heard a lot of other things. The mind talk, the cloaking, and even the orb. But I've never heard of the zapping, and that's an interesting aspect to take in.